and or this electricity will come down, and then we can consume it. What are the issues that develop? It's very simple. NASA, they're into space. They're not into electricity. The next party that here in the United States would deal with this would be the Department of Energy. The Department of Energy is into electricity. It's not into space. The two never talk. Okay? I've had many discussions at the Office of Science and Technology, and you talk to the people, and they're brilliant. They're all, literally, they knock you over, they know their stuff, they know their science inside out, but they're not talking reality because none of them talk finance. What I ended up figuring out, this is where I came into the picture, I figured out that, gee, if I can produce 1.5 gigawatts of electricity up there, which is not that much, it's a project that's about the size of the Grand Coulee Dam, which is not big, okay? I can send this down and I can make this economic, where Wall Street is delighted to pay for 100% of this here, based on conventional venture capital ratios that are known to exist and are required by investors to make their money available. So what is stopping all of that? It's simply that there are a lot of non-believers, a lot of people think that there is science that needs to be discovered. No. The beaming part has already been tested fully by John Rankin in Hawaii, and he beamed the electricity from one island to the other over water, which is far more dense and has far more problems that are associated with it versus what's going to be coming through clouds. So that's already proven out. And after that, there is no science, not a single bit of science that needs to be developed to deliver all of this. All it is the coders, the writers, the engineers to work all of this here, which is a big project. The next part is that if this is venture capital finance, this electricity that's sold down here, and maybe it starts selling at 6 cents per kilowatt, maybe it starts selling at more than that. It doesn't really matter. But the electricity that is sent down creates revenues. Okay? That means also it creates profits. And so all of a sudden, the state, the American state that creates this here, or sends this satellite up there, it's looking at collecting tax revenues. So this becomes a tax revenue generating activity for whatever states ends up proposing this here. So what are the issues? Some of the issues that got thrown out that were problems. One of them were property rights. The point is that property rights are going to be determined by homesteading. In other words, if it's an American company with American citizens that sends up an American satellite, okay, everybody's going to consider that American, okay? There's no question that the Chinese have actually developed satellites that come by and actually are there to destroy it, but if it's American, they're going to say that, wow, that's an act of war. Then they're not going to do that. So that had to be determined first, that had to be accepted. That property rights thing has been settled, and it's not that the United States military commits itself to this here, it's that it says, well, we're not saying we're going to do it, we're also not going to say we're not going to defend your rights. So, the point is that it creates enough of a fear factor that then nobody's going to touch this here. Then it just becomes a question of the cents and dollars that are required in this here, and that can be done. I've already personally heard the commitments of some private equity people who have said that it is a non-issue for them to commit the $750 to $1.5 billion in equity that's required to do this here. After that, it becomes a question of educating the bankers, because you put up equity, then you expect bankers to be able to loan some money in terms of the total that is required for that, and that has to be supported by sufficient insurance capacity in terms of property casualty if anything goes wrong along the way. But this here, this structure is a guaranteed structure, the same way an electric power utility plant can be built anywhere, and whether it's up there or it is, in some island or some nuclear facility, it doesn't make a difference. But the Anderson Amendment, which is really a limit of liability on nuclear disaster liability that can occur to any owner of a nuclear plant, which is a cap of like $400 million, if I remember correctly. And the thing is that that's so tiny. Okay, if we have a nuclear problem, we know that it's a multi-billion-dollar problem, and what the industry, incidentally the utility industry, has no interest in any of this here developing. The reason that it would disrupt their own delivery of electricity, and the managers would lose their jobs, and they don't want competition. They certainly don't want somebody to be able to beam electricity wherever the demand is. And remember, this becomes mobile. Now, it's not 100% mobile, but at the end of the day, the beam could go into a disaster area like Fukushima. It could go to a tornado-stricken area and all of a sudden provide energy. You know, it's a little bit of logistics, but nevertheless, it's certainly a hell of a lot faster than bringing in a tank and starting to do things to purify water. The other thing is that we, as an Earth terrestrial activity, we're running out of water, and it's only something with such a low cost that could actually take salty water and go through a distillation process and actually create pure water out of that we as humans need in terms of doing this. There's no question about this being developed, okay? The only question is timing and who's involved. And the next part is who owns, you know, the beginning part of this here. Well, it's going to be the party that basically provides the equity capital that's going to do that, and they are all want to make sure that they don't get their territory stepped on until they develop sufficient intellectual property to actually have something of value. What are you reaming down? UV? You're reaming down. It can be done at any breadth, but it's basically UV.
So downstairs you're going to have a bunch of solar collectors that you're going to put.
Rectanas, okay? You can actually
at the end of it, you're going to have some solar panels.
Well, they're less than solar panels, because underneath these solar panels, you can still have grazing land. Okay, you can still have farmland.
I'm not interested.
No, but it's an important factor. The breadth of collecting 15 gigawatts, incidentally, when I started this, I started at 1.5. Now it's grown to 15 gigawatts, which is base load quantity. Underneath all of that, you can still graze your cows and grow.
What's the size of it?
About 13 kilometers.
13 kilometers.
13 kilometers wide. Dollars and cents, and I keep coming back to this, the dollars and cents are all available today, and it doesn't matter what it is. Why? Because once that revenue stream comes down, and once there's a profit margin, you know, what we just had Facebook go out with some sort of valuation. Okay? What will somebody pay in terms of a multiple over the cash flow of an activity that starts delivering? It'll more than pay the several $billion. It's a possibility, but for the reason why we chose electricity was because it is the model that is most understood by the finance industry. We finance everything out there. The fact is that this electricity, once it's available, frankly, I don't think it's going to be sent a lot of it down to Earth. Very simply because they're going to say, wow, we got power up there, let's build those silicon chips. In other words, what we sell down there at 6 cents per kilowatt hour, which everybody is measuring everything against, up there, Intel, they'll pay $1, $2, $3, $4 for that to be able to build something because of the market for the more powerful computer chip that goes on, and that just makes the whole economics that much.